DevRecap number 4. Let's do this. So today, we're going to be working with states. I don't think I've really hyped them up in the videos properly, but elsewhere in a couple Discords I'm in, I've been talking about how I want to do states and how it's this whole thing. I want to try to focus on it. So that's what this video is going to be. It's going to be focusing on the states and how I'm moving around and changing my states. Now, as a kind of I guess a warning. There's a word for this. I can't think of it. But, my state machine is not the best state machine. In fact, it's kind of poor as a state machine because there's a lot of, I'm looking at my, different states a lot. You'll see more of that when I get into it, but I just kind of wanted to say that, this isn't ideal. One of the things that I want to do is, change the state machine when after I'm done my recap logs. I want to try to go back, and when I start my more active dev vlogs, where I'm talking about active development, and just to be clear, I am doing active development as I'm making these. It's just it's stuff that we've already covered, kind of. I'm kind of doing small changes here and there on the project that we don't have to talk about. But after I start my active dev vlog, I want to try one of the first things I want to do is try to clean up the state machine. There's a couple problems with that, but first I'm going to try to explain it, and then maybe I can try to explain what's wrong with a couple challenges I'm going to be facing trying to clean this up. So first off, my states. My states are stored in this variable, and it's not very clear what this variable is just looking at it, but this is what's called a map. And what a map does is it attaches a key to some item, so you have to look for a key in order to find the item. I liken this to a literal dictionary. The thing is, though, the dictionaries are their own data structure in computer science, and this is a map, but I think it works pretty well as a kind of point of comparison. So, a dictionary, of course, it has words that you can look for in the dictionary to quickly find their definitions. So, in this case, the word I'm looking for is move, and the definition is this thing here, the state. And just to be doubly clear, the states are stored in a states 2D node, which is just, a floating node. And they're all children of this node just to make it easy to organize. And so to access the states, because the states are each their own script, to access the state, I need to first grab the node the script of the state is in. So what I'm doing here is when I'm looking at this variable, I want to look at whatever state I'm in, which is stored in this variable, the var state. So the state up here is stored, whichever one I'm on is stored in this variable, and I'll be looking at whatever node is attached to whatever key the current state is attached to. So this makes more sense when we look at the resulting code that messes with this stuff. Whoops. So let's just scroll down. You guys have seen most of this before, so this is just my physics process delta function. It's it's the same as before. There's a couple more bells and whistles because I've advanced this since the obsolete state machine, obviously. But this is kind of one of the first things that come to mind when I say this isn't a perfect state machine, because I'm doing things in other states that I wish I wouldn't do. I want all the states to be self-contained. That's the ideal. All the states handle their own logic. And this is just one instance where I'm doing something where I could probably do this in their own states somehow, but for how I'm doing this, how I'm working out my timers, I need them here for some purposes. Yeah. So all this stuff is basically the same. I have a couple more conditionals, but they're not really that important for understanding states. Maybe if I go back at like looking at from attacks, I'll talk more about some of this stuff. But anyways, so this is the main thing here. This is the state machine actually. So I take my states. This is this variable at the map itself, and then I look at the current state I'm on, and the current state I'm on is by default set to move. So it's looking at the move key, like whatever is stored in the move key of my states, and that would be this node here, states/move. And what it does is it executes one of state/move's the script in state/move, which is the move state. It executes one of the functions in that script. The function is called execute delta. So let's take a look at the move state and see what function that is. As you can see, it's right here. And this basically contains all of the code we talked about before in the movement video. Where, like, you know, I'm moving around, I'm jumping, I'm falling, and I'm changing my sprites constantly. But as you can see, there's a lot of, like, if I control F host. Oh, I forgot to mention what host is. So up here, I do a couple more things than I did before. I first create some variables for my other states as well as my host, which is just a kinematic body that, like, is rows. This is to get script variables from there. Because I need them. This is part of the reason why I said that, like, you know, it's not the best, because, like, for instance, my overall velocity, like what's moving my character around, is stored up here, when I honestly want that to be in the move state. For most cases, I want this to be in the move state, but I can't because of how kinematic body works. Like, the move script is stored in a node 2D. I can't tell this thing to move and collide because it's not a physics object. Rows is the physics object, so I need rows to be moving and colliding. And the only way I can get rows to move and collide is if I have this code here. If I have the velocity up here. So there's not much I can do with that. At least not, like, for now. I can probably think through it and make it a bit more clean. But for now, this is the best I've got. So yeah, I want to modify variables from my host script, so I need to grab that host by getting the parent. So the first get parent gets the state, and then the second get parent gets rows. So yeah, oops. Wrong one. And then attack is a similar deal. I need some variables from the attack script. So I get parent, which is state, and then I get node attack. So yeah, I go up to states and then I get to attacks. And as you can see, I control F to host. So these are all the host variables, and like that's almost all the variables here. It's very unfortunate that I have all these things, but I'm going to try to fix it. Like I said, in the future. This is a very unideal situation. But anyways, let's move on. So I'm in the move state. How do I get out of the move state? Where do I leave the move state to do other things? Because while I'm moving, I can't really attack, can I? Like, if I'm just moving around, there's no attack code here. But wait, what's this up here? It's an attack trigger. So input.isActionJustPressUI/. That is just I've shown you my input map before. But the UI/ thing is just I set it to be. I mapped it to my mouse button, my left click mouse button, and the X button on like an Xbox 360 D-pad, or like, you know, it says PS Square, Nintendo Y. You get the gist. Like it's that button. So the slash, if I press that button and you know, my attack isn't on cooldown, I then do all this stuff. This basically initializes my attack, and the most important part here is that my state has changed. So, after my state has changed, I don't immediately flip states. What I do is, the code looks out the rest of this code. So, like, this is pressed, so it won't trigger any of this stuff, because this is an else-if statement. If this triggers, this won't trigger. And the same deal with this. Like, none of this actually triggers, it's just this stuff, but it'll look through the rest of the code, just to make sure that it's not missing anything, because, like, the logic just is, like, it goes through from the top to the bottom. It loops through, and at the end of this here, it'll loop back up to the top of wherever whatever this is. So in the rows context, the execute delta script ends here, and then it'll go back up to the main rows script and start here. because oh, I guess I'll start here. I guess it'll actually start in the process delta, but the process delta doesn't matter. For our case, for our purposes, it'll start here. And it'll go through all this stuff. Oh, and it hits the state. The state is now attack. So it looks at the state's map, based on the attack key, it looks at the state's attack node. And it'll execute that. It'll execute that function, that execute delta function. So now we're in attack. So just to be clear, we've hit the attack button, and we moved from the move state to the attack state now. So this is how I'm moving around through different states. So now I'm in this state, and this state is a lot more clean. There's only a couple instances where like I gotta change it up because you see, actually, do I ever use move? I'm curious now, because I store move up here. Oh, okay, that's the only place I use move, huh? I could actually delete this. I don't need this at all. Right, so that just makes this a little bit more cleaner, because I don't need that variable. I thought I did for some reason, but guess I didn't. But anyways, this is a lot more of a clean thing, because all these variables are self-contained. Like, I don't have first attack, second attack, third attack, combo step. I don't have those variables. I don't need them anywhere else, except in the one instance where I need to use them in move. But this is move's fault. This isn't attack's fault. This is all move's fault that it's doing this. I could initialize all of this stuff in attack, I feel like. Or rather, I know for a fact I can do that. But that was just a remnant from my old code, and I haven't switched it around. But this is ideal. Having all of the attack junk within attack and only being messed with by attack. So, I'm looking at the execute delta now, because the process delta, this basically happens regardless of what state I'm in. So like when I'm not in the attack state, I want some of this stuff to happen, because if I don't have this, then we'll run into some jankiness where like if I'm interrupted in my attack, like let's say I get shot by some sort of like aerial blast, and transition to the hurt state, and it erased my attack. I'm not attacking anymore. This erases my attacks as they're stored. So we'll get into exactly what that means in the attacks video. In this video, though, I want to just kind of breeze by this and not really worry so much about the details. I just want to worry about how I'm now getting out of the attack state. So all of this stuff, just try not to worry about it for now. We'll get back to it. So down here is where like I'm going to be leaving the attack state. So I'm in the attack state now, and let's see. Oh, there it is, the state. I get out of the state here, and all this other stuff is just resetting the attack variables. So this is the important bit. So how do I get there? First, I have to get my combo state to be equal to 0. My combo step, rather. And if you'd recall, if you have a good memory from the movement state, the combo step is initialized to 1. It's set to 1 before I moved to the attack state. So how am I going to get from 1 to 0? Because, like, logically speaking, the attack steps will always go up. So, yeah, like, whenever I'm attacking something, like, let's just look at the first slash here, combo step is plus equal to 1, and that's true for all of the attacks. So I'm always incrementing the combo steps. How am I ever going to leave the combo? Well, you see, part of the logic here is that I can do a maximum of 3 attacks, and eventually each attack has its own timer that will time out eventually. When it times out, the combo step is equal to 0. So that's one way I can get to the combo steps equal to 0, and thus out of the attack state and back into the movement state, which is the state I want to get to as soon as I exit the attack state. And the other way, this is one way. There's another way where I can get out of the combo step. You probably have seen it. It's this one right here. So whenever I input a new thing and I can interrupt my attack, the combo step is equal to 0. So I'll do a little bit of light teaching about what this means. So when I can attack, you see I do this wind up thing, and while I'm doing this wind up thing, I can't get out of it. Like, I can't interrupt myself while I'm attacking. However, as you can see, I kind of linger in that attack state for a little while because I want to be able to do stuff. I want to give my players a little bit of breathing room in case they want to wait for, like, let an attack wait a second. So what I do is I let you be able to attack for a little bit after you are already attacked, but it times out and it'll set you to the move state. However, if you're trying to move after you attack, you can immediately move. You can immediately interrupt yourself and enter the move state immediately, and that's what this code here allows for. If you're not doing that, it'll assume it'll assume that you're going to the next combo step, specifically if you use the next attack. This logic will need to be replaced at some point in the future because I guess there'll be a whole slew of other else-if statements. I think I can manage this. I think I can do this a little bit better in the future. But again, this is all for the future. I just wanted to go over this in brief and tell you how I'm moving from the attack state back to the move state. And that's how you do it. You either interrupt yourself or you just let your attack time out and you'll be back in the move state. And those are the only two ways. So we've gone over the attack state and the move state. How do I get into the hurt state? Well, obviously, I need to get hurt. A hurt state is not a voluntary state. It's a state where you get hurt by an enemy and you get knocked back and stuff. So where do I get into the hurt state? This is where the area 2D comes in. So, my first devlog, whichever devlog I talked about the movement code, I think it might have been the second one. Yes, it was the second one. I was talking about how there's two colliders here. I should rename this. It's not a physical collider. It's a damage collider. Damage. Or I guess trigger collider should be more descriptive of what it is. So I have this area 2D where it's different from my physics 2D because this thing interacts only with that's another thing I forgot to change. So when I was demonstrating something, I set this to enemy trigger. I don't want that. I want it to be set to only physics objects. This thing handles being hit by enemies and enemy attacks. This is what handles those kinds of collisions. So let's look at that script because when this happens, I need to do something. So first, I get my host because I need to be able to reference some host variables, specifically the state, and I also do this ready thing. So just to kind of teach you guys this in brief. So area 2Ds have these things called triggers, and area entered is one of these triggers. This trigger though isn't by default defined as a function that you can do stuff with, process delta. This is something that you have to set. So I connect area entered on self, which is this area 2D, and I set that to on area entered. So now I basically created a function kind of field in order to mess with the what happens when another area enters this area. So I have if you look at my enemy, this is my generic enemy. I have an area 2D attached to that enemy. So when that area enters this area, I want to do something. So on area entered, and it takes an area as a parameter. So this is that area, this thing contains the reference to this enemy's area. So first, I want to grab the parent of that area because this normally the thing that I'm looking at is probably going to be the parent, which is the enemy here. I want to look at the stuff in here. I want to look at the enemy's script. So in order to grab that script, I need to look at the parent of the area that I'm colliding with and look at that script. So I want to get that, and I set that to object. Can call it whatever I want. And first, I want to see if it's an enemy or an enemy attack. And so yeah, if it's an enemy or enemy attack, and the tag is just a variable that I've set back here, tags equal to enemy, you can see. It's understandable. And I make sure I'm not in the hurt state, because if I'm in the hurt state, I don't want to be able to get hurt again. A hurt state gives you invincibility frames. So first thing I do, I set the velocity to 0 because I don't want to be moving around while if I'm just hurt. I want to do that thing where common in video games where if you get hurt, you kind of bounce back, you kind of recoil. And setting this velocity to 0 just makes sure that I'm not moving in some unpredictable way that'll cause the movement that I'm about to cause it, the knockback, to work funky. And then I set my hurt timer. This is basically just how long I stay in the hurt state. And then I change my state to hurt. And of course, I decrement my HP because I was just hurt. Like, I take damage. And this just makes sure that I'm going in a particular direction. So, like, this part right here, let me check myself before I wreck myself, actually. Let me make sure that this is what that is. It totally is. Okay, so, this, I'll just show you real fast. Gotta break this. Whoa. Don't know why that happened. Huh. Okay, so some of my logic is janky there, obviously. So, what I wanted to show you is that when I'm hit from the right, I of course go right. This includes like from up here, and if the enemy is hit me from the left, I then go left. So like, yeah, I am hit from that direction, so I go left, and I face the enemy. I face the direction of where I'm hit. That's not necessary, but it's what I do. It's not a big deal. So that's what this does. And then, so now I'm in my hurt state. So let's check out my hurt state and how I get out of that. Because now that I'm in my hurt state, I need a way to get back to my move state after I'm done being hurt. So this is just initialization. I do it everywhere. And hurt state is pretty self-contained as well. The only thing I need to do is change my host velocity and, my speed and stuff in order to make sure I'm moving correctly. Because again, I can't change how I'm moving directly from hurt. Hurt isn't a kinematic body, and it isn't the kinematic, even if it was, it's not the kinematic body that like is messing with rows as a node, as an object. So, in order to, I first need to grab the host. I don't actually need this. And so, I called it, like, again, I've looped back up, actually. So, after I called this hurt right here, after I called the state.hurt equals to hurt, host.state equals to hurt, Jesus Christ. I then, I loop back up, I go, like, next time I calculate the state, I look at what state I'm on, I execute delta, and of course, hurt has its own execute delta. This is very consistent. I want all my states to have this, at least these kinds of states. I want these kinds of states to have this function exactly, because this is how I'm doing it. This is how I'm executing the script here. So, first, I set my velocity and V speed, like, I'm setting my speed to be appropriate for the knockback. And this basically is what allows me to, like, do the knockback that you saw where, I'm knocked back. And then I change sprites to reflect that I'm in the hurt state. So I have a little, like you saw, I have a little hurt, like, not an animation. It technically is an animation, but I have a little hurt sprite that triggers when I'm hurt. And then I need to check constantly if my hurt timer is less than or equal to 0. Because my hurt timer is constantly going down back in my main script. It's going down right here. So every physics frame, it'll count down the hurt timer, and that's what's allowing me to get out of the hurt state. Because after it hit 0, it sets the velocity, all my velocity to 0, because I don't want to be moving around after I exit the hurt state. I don't want to be moving around in like some random direction. So this is just cleanup, and I set my state to move, and again it loops back around, and then it executes that state, and so I'm back in the move state. So that about covers it. We're done. We've gone through all my states and my state logic. However, I should, like, I said this before, but as you saw, I'm doing a lot of messing around with my other states within my state. So, like, my attack state is looking at my moves, not my move state. Actually, my attack state is really good. It's my best state in terms of being a state. But the hurt state is looking at my host. The move state is looking at my host and my attack state. Like, it's a bit messy. I want this to all be self-contained, but it's not right now. So in the future, I'm going to try to clean this up, and do a little vlog on how I'm doing cleaning it up. I probably won't clean it up if, like, I'm not doing anything. Why do I have a null there? It's weird. So yeah, we're done here. I hope this was informative for anyone who doesn't really understand what states are, or like how to design states, or think how states can be useful. And we're done. See ya.